So there we go. We can now see the result running from our Bluemix deployment, going from 1 to 50. But I mentioned at the end of the previous one that there was a bug in the code still. And if we try different ranges, we can actually see that. So if I come into here and change that 1 to, say, a 9, and ask for the results again, I get an empty result set. And this is really one of the common errors that you can get when you use a language which is not typed. Because you need to be very careful if you're doing a string comparison or a number comparison. So with a number comparison, number 9 is less than 50. But when I convert these to strings and then do a string comparison, number 9 is greater than 50 because number 9 appears after number 5 in the character set. So when we come back into our code, when we look at the convert range to FizzBuzz, you'll see that we have this comparison where start, which I starts with, is less than or greater than the end. So when we have strings, we are saying is 9 less than or equal to 50, and that's false. So we just drop straight out with an empty result set. So what we need to do is go back into our tests and make sure that we're actually testing for this common error. So we can do that quite easily by first notice that we're passing in numbers here, but when we call it, we parse out the value from the URL and we pass in strings. So let's pass in strings. And we're now going to pass in a higher number than the first character of this second. So we're now going to be testing whether we're doing string or number comparison. And as we're changing that, we also need to change our test here to say that this should go from 9 to 50. And now if we come in and run our test, and we save this file, we find that we're now failing our test because we're not calling 9 to 50. So if we come back into our function, our implementation, we now need to make sure that start, when it gets into this comparison, is a number. And we can do that quite easily by just converting to a number. So now we are going from an integer to an integer, and as all these are now numbers, then there's going to be no type coercion, and we know that we're going to be doing a number comparison here. So if I just save this file, we're now back to passing the test. So what I can do is if I just come into the Git staging and I stage these two, and do a commit and push, and I'm going to quickly jump back into my DevOps services, because now I'm doing a commit and push. You've noticed that since we set up the build pipeline to automatically run when something was pushed, we've now got our latest commit come in and we're running the build. So there we are, we've built, tested and deployed our new application. So if I come back into Chrome and run this again, we now get the results as expected from 9 right the way through to 50. And that completes exercise 5D.